mortals. You remember it. The laughter, the chaos, the feeling that nothing in the world could reach you. For a generation, it wasn't just television. It was childhood. But memory is a fragile thing. It keeps what feels safe and buries what doesn't. Because behind the laughter, behind the lights, behind the smiling faces, there were stories. Stories that were never meant to be told, and some of them never really ended.
Nickelodeon didn't begin as a powerhouse. It didn't start as the defining voice of a generation. In 1977, it was something much smaller, an experimental cable channel called Pinwheel. At the time, children's television followed a predictable formula. Educational programming, moral lessons, slow pacing. It was structured, controlled, and safe. But Nickelodeon would change that. By the early 1980s, the network had rebranded and evolved into something entirely different. Instead of instructing children, it entertained them. Loudly and relentlessly. Bright colors flooded the screen. Messy humor replaced structure. Characters acted unpredictably. And most importantly, the adults disappeared. Nickelodeon built its identity around a simple idea. This is your world. Kids weren't just the audience. They were the focus, the voice, the energy driving everything forward. By the 1990s, that idea had fully taken shape. Shows like All That, Kenan and Kel, and The Amanda Show defined a generation. The slime, the chaos, the bright orange branding all reinforced the illusion that this wasn't controlled. It felt spontaneous. It felt real. For millions of children, Nickelodeon became routine. After school, weekend mornings, late night reruns, it became part of memory itself. But behind every moment on screen, there was structure. What looked chaotic was controlled. What looked spontaneous was produced. And what felt like pure childhood joy was part of something much larger. Because the children on screen weren't just playing, they were working. Child actors operate under strict legal protections, but even within those boundaries, the demands are intense. Long filming days, repeated takes, constant performance. And unlike adults, they are still developing. Emotionally, psychologically, socially. Imagine being 12 years old and knowing millions of people are watching you. Not just watching, expecting something from you. They expect you to be funny, to be energetic, to be perfect, every single time. Because if the show succeeds, you become a star. But if it doesn't, you disappear, quietly, and the audience moves on. By the late 1990s, Nickelodeon had figured something out that few networks had mastered. Not just how to create a hit show, but how to consistently create stars. It wasn't luck, it was a system. At the center of that system was a show called All That, which premiered in 1994. It was a sketch comedy series built around a rotating cast of young performers. But more importantly, it became a proving ground. Actors like Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell, Amanda Bynes, and Nick Cannon were introduced to audiences there. They weren't just performing. They were being evaluated. Which characters worked, which personalities stood out, which performers connected. And when someone stood out, the next step was already waiting. Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell moved into their own show, Kenan and Kel, in 1996. Amanda Bynes followed the same path, moving from All That to The Amanda Show in 1999. This was not coincidence, it was a pattern. Introduce talent, test them, elevate them, build a show around them. By the early 2000s, the system had evolved even further. Nickelodeon shifted towards sitcom-style programming, allowing for more controlled storytelling and longer character arcs. Drake and Josh premiered in 2004, starring Drake Bell and Josh Peck. Both had already been introduced to audiences. They were familiar, recognizable, already part of the system. Within that show was Miranda Cosgrove, playing Megan Parker, a supporting role, but memorable. And in 2007, she was moved into a lead position with iCarly. The same pattern repeated. Introduce, observe, elevate. Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam Puckett, had also been working within the system before iCarly. By the time she reached that role, she was already experienced in the structure. In 2005, Zoey 101 introduced Jamie Lynn Spears. In 2010, Victorious introduced Ariana Grande to a wide audience. And in 2013, Sam and Cat combined Jeanette McCurdy and Ariana Grande into a single show, merging audiences and maximizing familiarity. This wasn't just creative, it was strategic. At every level, the system relied on recognition. If the audience already knew you, they would follow you. From a business perspective, it worked. It allowed Nickelodeon to produce content efficiently, maintain strong ratings, and continuously refresh its lineup. But the system never slowed down. Production remained constant, expectations remained high, and the actors inside it were still growing up, still forming their identity, still learning who they were, all while being shaped into characters for millions of viewers. And then there was the part of the system that couldn't be avoided: time. Because no matter how successful a show was, the audience eventually changed. Children grew up, new audiences replaced them, and the system adapted. New shows, new faces, and the previous stars were phased out. Sometimes gradually, sometimes suddenly, but almost always quietly. There was no clear transition, no defined path forward, just an ending, and then something else. Because when your identity is built inside a system like this, walking away isn't simple. For years, these actors weren't just performers. They were brands, recognized, defined, expected. And when that recognition fades, it leaves a gap, a space between who you were and who you are now. For some, that transition is manageable. For others, it isn't, because the system that created them was never designed to last forever. It was designed to move forward, always forward, and that meant one thing: replacement. There's a moment that happens in systems like this. It doesn't arrive all at once. It builds slowly, and then one day, something changes. Amanda Bynes joined All That in 1996 at 10 years old. She stood out immediately. Her timing, her delivery, her presence. By 1999, she had her own show, The Amanda Show. It was built entirely around her, and it worked. She became one of the most recognizable faces on the network. After the show ended, she transitioned into film. What a Girl Wants, She's the Man, Hairspray. The trajectory seemed clear. But in 2010, she announced she was retiring, then reversed it, then stepped away again. And gradually, her public behavior began to change. Social media posts that felt erratic, legal issues beginning in 2012, increasing media attention. By 2013, she was placed under a conservatorship. For nearly a decade, that structure remained in place. And during that time, her public image shifted completely. She was no longer seen as the confident performer.
Oh, I'm going on Ozempic. So excited. I'm 173 now. So I hope to get down to like 130, which would be awesome. So I look better in paparazzi pictures and you don't see my double chin from strange angles. Yeah, so that's about it. I will post about my Ozempic journey, of course. And yeah, that's about it. Have a good night, everybody.
She became a story, a headline, but behind that was still a person who had entered the industry as a child, someone whose identity had been shaped in public. And when that identity fractured, it didn't happen privately. It happened in front of everyone. Years later, Jeanette McCurdy would offer a different perspective. Known as Sam Puckett from iCarly, she had spent years inside the system. In 2022, she released a memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. In it, she described the pressure she experienced growing up. Control, expectations, lack of autonomy. Her story focused on family dynamics, but it also revealed something about the environment she worked in. Long hours, structured expectations, limited control, and a disconnect between who she was and who she was expected to be.
I think my mom wanted to keep me as controllable as possible. I think she really wanted to have her influence on me, and me growing up was a threat to that.
The key to that was calorie restriction.
Absolutely. I think my mom encouraged and conditioned my anorexia because both she thought that it would in some ways help my career, and also because it served her goal of keeping me young and under her influence.
She eventually stepped away from acting entirely, not because she couldn't continue, but because she didn't want to. And when multiple people leave the same system with similar reflections, it raises a question. What was happening inside that system that the audience never saw? There's something people remember, not a specific moment. A feeling. Something that didn't feel quite right. At the time, it wasn't noticeable, because you were a child. But when those moments are revisited later, they feel different. The pacing, the tone, the repetition, it creates a pause. And that pause is where perception shifts. What once felt normal begins to feel unfamiliar. Because now, you're outside of it, looking back, and distance changes everything. It reveals patterns, repetition, structure, the same types of characters, the same energy, the same style. At first, it feels comforting. Then it starts to feel different. Moments that once felt random begin to feel intentional. Not necessarily wrong, just off.
Is it possible for a teenage girl to drink water upside down? I'm thirsty! It's not possible!
That feeling doesn't come from one source. It's everything combined. The system, the pressure, the repetition, all layered together, creating something that once felt completely normal, but now feels harder to explain. Because the shows haven't changed, only you have. And with that change comes a new understanding. That what you were watching was never just what it appeared to be. It was constructed, produced, controlled. Every moment built to feel effortless. And behind it were real people, children, learning to perform before understanding themselves, learning to be seen before understanding what it meant to be watched. That's where the feeling comes from. Not from one moment, but from the realization that what felt like childhood was also something else. Something more complex, something more controlled, and something that left an impression, even if you didn't understand it at the time.
Greetings, mortals. You remember it now. The colors, the noise, the feeling that nothing could touch you, but something did. It was always there, behind the lights, behind the laughter, behind the screen, waiting. Because childhood was never meant to be watched forever. and the camera never looked away.